Chinese-built Moi International Sports Center at Kasarani, Nairobi. The Chinese had handed over the 60,000-seater stadium to the Kenya government in April, in readiness for the Games, which were staged in August that year, with hundreds of sportsmen and sportswomen from 38 African nations taking part. The colourful Games saw Kenya emerge at the top of the boxing table with 8 gold medals out of a possible 12, confirming Kenya's claim to the title of Africa's boxing champion. In athletics, the host nation came away with 13 gold medals, one less than the leading nation, Nigeria. Among Kenya's gold medalists was Simeon Kipkemboi in the men's 200 metres, John Ngugi in the men's 5,000 metres, Patrick Sang in the 3,000 metre steeplechase, and schoolgirl Agneta Chelimo in the women's 5-kilometre walk. In the overall medals, Kenya finished fourth with 22 gold medals, behind the leaders Egypt with 31 gold, Tunisia 28 and Nigeria 23. Elsewhere in international sports, Kenya performed well. At the World Championship Games in Rome, Billy Conchella won the men's 400 metres race. Paul Kipkoech won the men's 10,000 metres race, and Douglas Wakihuri the men's marathon. And that year, Ibrahim Hussein also won the men's New York Marathon. In other international relations, 1987 saw Nigerian President Ibrahim Babangida come to Kenya on a state visit in October. The following month, German Chancellor Helmut Kohl paid a visit to Kenya on an African tour that also covered Cameroon and Mozambique. But it was also the year relations between the government of President Daniel Arap Moi and Libya's strongman Muammar Gaddafi soured. In December, the government expelled Libyan charge d'affaires Ahmed Khalifa for what the government claimed to be gross interference in Kenya's internal affairs. The expulsion of the Libyan diplomat came as President Moi's government continued to face growing local and international criticism for violations of human rights. In March, Parliament had passed legislation empowering the president to detain anyone undermining the government. And shortly thereafter, Moi drew criticism from many quarters when he proposed that in the coming general election, anyone who got 70% and more of the votes during nomination by the ruling and sole party KANU would be declared elected unopposed. Not surprisingly, the ruling party adopted Moi's proposal despite the fact that the party nominations would be conducted not by secret ballot but through queue voting, a system which was already unpopular with critics of the Moi government. 1987 was not a particularly good year for Kenyan business. Upland's Bacon Factory, the leading processor of pork since the years before independence, collapsed in August after being placed under receivership due to a 6.5 million Kenya shilling debt owed to the state-owned Agricultural Development Corporation. That year also saw the assets of JK Industries, flagship of the businesses owned by Justice Kavindu Kalinga, one of the most respected indigenous entrepreneurs, sold by creditors on court orders. And it was also the year that East African Publishing House, the oldest publisher in the country, was placed under receivership due to a debt owed to the National Bank of Kenya. In 1987, Kenyans said farewell to the founding chairperson of the Society for Deaf Children and first ever qualified woman architect in East Africa, Dorothy Hughes. Catholic Bishop Caesar Gatimo. Former Nation newspaper's editor-in-chief, Joe Rodriguez. Assistant Minister for Finance, Stephen Echakara, who was murdered in Nairobi. And former leader of the pre-independence anti-colonial religious movement, Dini Yam Sambwa, Elijah Masinde.